I don't know if I can go on to elite right now. I literally might die. Epoch, this is actually the guy from today. I could try and answer this question right now. Let me just see this. So the question is, I want to take this game extremely seriously with the ultimate goal being becoming a pro. What should my training routine be for someone this dedicated? I know I'll have to put at least 40 hours per week. I don't know if that's true, but we'll continue on into playing and VOD reviewing. But I'd love an in-depth answer of how to be as efficient as possible with my time. So this is, for me, this is a lot to break down, kids. But we'll try and break this down. I have 23 minutes to break this down. 22 minutes. I've already lost a second or a minute. What should my training routine be for someone this dedicated? I think the number one shortcut for all of this, like, yes, there's the VOD reviews, yes, there's tech skill and the frame data and all that. I would say the number one thing going into this, if you're actually trying to become a pro player or as close to a pro player as physically possible, is trying to enter as many tournaments as you possibly can. You want to try and put yourself under as much tournament pressure as you possibly can, and that's how you're going to develop executing under pressure. That's going to be the number one thing, because you can grind tech skill and have the frame data and all the knowledge and stuff like that. And I talked about this a little bit on the flip side from the last video, talking about how you want to have a lot of your information under your belt, so when you're going into a fight or going into a set, you know what to expect, and you know how to, I guess, expose certain gimmicks, and that's all good and well. Amongst all of that, you still need to have your nerves as low as you can possibly get them. I'll never say that you're going to have 100%, you're never going to be 100% relaxed in a fight, unless of course maybe you're number one seed fighting like the bottom seed, and you know it's guaranteed with your eyes closed that you're going to win. There's always at least somewhat of a chance that somebody can show up or somebody can pop off and do something crazy and just catch you off guard. So there's always a potential to lose or have a close game. So as far as having nerves eliminated entirely, that'll probably never happen. But I would say, like I said before, enter as many tournaments as you possibly can. If that means entering, if it means 2 a week, then it's 2 a week. If it's 5 a week, then it's 5 a week. Whatever you're capable of doing. If you have a job, if you're at work, if you have a family, then sometimes something like 5 times a week might not be possible. But in, let's say, a perfect world, to say somewhat balanced, we'll say we'll do balance, but on the high end, would be 3 times a week. If you can go 3 times a week, that'd be the number one thing to do. Go to as many tournaments as possible. The number two thing that I would say that you have to do with regards to, I guess, reaching that next level is, if you're going to be fighting certain characters in these tournaments, you should be studying your opponents as if they actually are a real threat. Don't think to yourself, okay, I'm just going to fight this guy and learn on the fly, and then I'll see him again next week, and hopefully I can beat him next time, or hopefully I can catch him off guard, or maybe he's going to just whatever. I'll have some other random outside force, I guess you could say, that is going to help me just win for no reason. Rather than doing that, treat your opponent, like I said, like as an actual threat. So if that means that you're fighting someone and you know for a fact that they play Joker, or they play Link or Mario or whoever, if you know that that's their main, like I said, it's a very strong chance that they're going to use that character every single week. They might pull out a pocket, but their pocket character probably won't be as good. I'm not saying that you shouldn't care about their pocket character, but you should care most definitely about their main character. And with that, let's say with Mario, you should know that back air is -4 on shield. You should know that nair is -2 on shield. You should know how much pushback his F smash has. So if he F smashes your shield, you can't grab him unless you have like a tether grab or something. If he does up smash on his shield, he can catch you behind you. Or he can catch you behind him. If he does, I don't know, his ladder combos start to work at certain percents. You should know when down air starts to kill. You should know when tech chases start, as far as like knocking down with weak hit nair at like 60. You should know all of these things. You should know if you have to, like, if he's going for, let's say, falling up air, rising up air, fair at the ledge, that you should be DIing in to get bounced off the stage, because it is a true combo. You can't get out of it just by DIing or trying to air dodge out. But if you air dodge, or if you try and DI out, you'll get spiked into oblivion and just straight up die. So there's just small things like that that you should know. Then as far as the frame data, as far as saying, okay, what is safe on shield, what is not safe on shield, what can I outrange, what can I out prioritize based on hitbox or hierarchy, to say this has a disjoint, this has super armor, this is invincible, this is a multi-hit, this is a single hit, whatever the move might be. Also against your own moves. So if he's always going to jump in with a nair, is it only your back air that can trade or beat that move? If that's the case, then that's something you have to try and remember while playing. If he's landing on you with nair and it is in fact -2 on shield, is he going to spot dodge immediately, jab immediately, down tilt immediately? grab immediately, jump with another nair immediately. Those are things you have to try and pay attention to, because if something is -2 on shield and you're not parrying it and he is landing on your shield, you have to recognize that you're not going to get a true punish on that particular move. It's going to be on the next thing. So if he goes nair into shield, let's say, are you nairing out a shield and he's up smashing you, or up airing out a shield and catching you? Or are you really paying attention to what his habits are? And here's one of those things too, and I feel like a lot of players don't recognize this just as a universal, I guess, staple within the game. Every player has their habits that they gravitate to. It's not just you. It's not just you that has a rolling habit or a spot dodging habit or a dash back F smash or dash back RAR back air or whatever habit that you happen to have. Your opponent has those too. So if you can catch on to them, and let's say they do nair on shield into spot dodge or nair on shield into shield, if you can catch on to those things, they're not going to have infinite mix-ups, just like you don't have infinite mix-ups. So take your sets, or this is also another, almost like a segue, as far as learning your frame data, going to as many tournaments as possible. Take each game or each set, one game or one set at a time. And what I mean by that is, if your opponent has a certain set of habits, just focus on that, just for that game. They might be able to change it up in next week, and they might be able to get miraculously a little bit better, but there's not going to be a brand new player next week, as far as like that person's not going to level up so fast in 1 week that there's nothing you can possibly do. So if you get finessed by something, recognize that the next week that you fight that person, if you happen to run into them, very strong chance they're going to try and fall back on those same things again. I'll say something like, even for myself, something that I can finesse people with all the time with Falco is running off stage, side being back on stage, and if they try and grab me or dash attack me or side B or up smash or whatever, by the time I get back to them, I catch the end of their end leg, hit them with side B, full hop or double jump back air, and they just die. So if I were, let's say, to be fighting you, and that happened to you, and I won the set or won a game because of that, don't think that for a single second that next week, if we happen to play again, that I'm not going to try and do it. I might not be successful, or I might not get the opportunity to do it, but if the opportunity is there, I'm most definitely going to try and do it, right? If somebody has a favorite jab lock that they go for, or somebody like, let's say, Tilde going for the up tilt into footstool, or if it's like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, just people that have like staple things. I've seen Spargo, he's been doing a lot of landing back air, turnaround, immediate jab. It's just stuff like that. If someone's doing stuff like that, and you know that that's just what they do, it's not really a spur of the moment freestyle thing, as much as it might look very organic. It's something that they fall back on all the time because it works on a large majority of players. So I'd be looking out for that. And then, like I said, memorizing that. If you get a chance to be on stream, save the stream, look back at the stream. As far as a VOD review, looking at the VOD, let's say, also I guess on the topic of VODs, it's okay to look at VODs where you win, but it's much, much better, and you're going to get much more information out of a VOD or a set that you lose. Because if you won, it's like, okay, if you already got an A, how do you get an A+? It's like, that's not what we're looking for. It's like, I want to get an A, and I got a D or an F. Like, how do I turn that D or an F into an A? That's what we're looking to do. And in most cases, you're going to find that more so when you're fighting someone who is maybe substantially better than you, but at least a little bit better than you. They're not letting you get away with nonsense. They're not letting you jump off stage for no reason, then recover for free. They're not letting you tech roll in. They're not letting you miss your techs, not letting you land on their shield. They're punishing you for this type of stuff. So if you're looking back at your VODs, and you see some of this stuff, whether or not you know how to signify what is worth remembering and what is just a random spur of the moment thing in neutral, try to document everything. Document, if you really want to get hardcore, you could do this too. Document how much time you spend on the ground. Document how much time you spend on a platform, how much time you spend jumping, how often do you jump? Do you waste your double jump in neutral? Are you walking more than you're dashing? Are you dashing more than you're walking? Right? Are you dashing to a certain point? Then let's say if this is center stage, you're right here and they're right here. As you get closer to center stage, do you always jump at that one point to try and hit them? Is that what always happens? Is there like that break point or point of no return where it's like, as soon as I get to this spot, I'm going to just do something? What is your autopilot in that situation? What's your default? For some people, it's get to this point and I'm going to roll in. Get to this point and I'm going to jump away with a back air, or get to this point, then want to dash back, then dash back in with a side B. Do you have a habit like that? Versus, in some cases, do you have the no mix-up, or instead of getting to this certain point and then just doing something, as far as jumping in or dashing or having some sort of mix-up, do you ever just get there and just stand there and see what they're going to do? Because they might get to that certain spot and then just shield because they're expecting you to jump in, for example. Or can you get to that certain spot and then just walk in and go for a grab, or dash in and go for a grab? Because every single time you're leaving your feet, and they recognize that if you leave your feet, you're probably not going to go for a grab, especially if you haven't been. That's another mix-up you could be throwing into as far as your VOD reviews, to, I guess, critically think about what you're doing, to say, if I jump in and they're ready for it every single time by shielding, we have a magical thing in Smash called a tomahawk grab, right? It's a short hop, empty hop. You can do it out of a full hop too, but it's traditionally out of a short hop. Short hop, empty hop, land, grab. If you're someone who never ever does that, that could be something that could completely blow your game wide open, as far as something that you should be adding to your game to say, okay, maybe play a character like Fox even, or Sheik. Well, Sheik actually is probably not the greatest example. I'm thinking Fox probably better as far as not getting a ton off of grabs. So I can see why you, or maybe Cloud, someone like that, where you never ever go for grabs because your character's grabs just don't combo, they don't kill, they don't have any real utility outside of just getting somebody to stop shielding. But if that's exactly it, like let's say if you're coming in with Fox, you're doing landing there, down tilt, or landing there, up tilt, or landing there, rising there, and every single time they're punishing you when you land on shield, or they're punishing you when you jump away, or they're punishing you when you land on shield, then you down tilt, they're punishing the down tilt or whatever tilt you do because it isn't safe on shield. Rather than doing that and giving them the satisfaction of letting you hit their shield, seeing the hit confirm, maybe even feeling the rumble or seeing the white circle on their shield, rather than having all those things happen, just go straight for the grab. And they're just not ready for it, right? So all of a sudden now, when they run up, instead of just running up and shielding, they could be running up, shielding, then spot dodging, or shielding, then just up smashing. In which case, if you go up to that point, like I said before, and just stand there, they might panic. They might shield, spot dodge, shield, up smash. You're just standing there, and now you get a chance to run and up smash them, run and grab them, run and go for a dash attack, whatever you want to go for. That's kind of a breakdown for how I'd say that's going to be one part of your VOD review. It could also be like, what do you like to do off the ledge? Are you constantly rolling? Are you constantly jumping? Actually, you know what? Before we even get into that, I was going to say another thing for sure too is, if you can look back at your VODs. If you fight someone that gets you outrageously tilted, which is not hard to do in Smash, honestly, very easy to get tilted in Smash. But if you're fighting someone who gets you tilted, it's very powerful to look back at your gameplay and say, what is my default when I play mad? Because a lot of players don't even take that into consideration. Everyone tries to play as textbook as possible, but when your emotions come into play, a lot of that goes out the window. This player is so annoying, this player has so much range, this player has everything safe on shield. I want to just get in and do what I want to do, because I'm tired of running up and shielding. I'm tired of playing slow. I'm tired of them having to whiff a smash attack, and that's all they have to do in order for me to get literally anything, because all their tilts or aerials are super safe or have crazy range. If you get to see a snapshot of yourself playing in that state, what does it look like? Do you find yourself dash attacking way more? Do you find yourself rolling in and up smashing, or rolling in and going for grabs? Do you find yourself running up and down smashing? Do you find yourself, I don't know, jumping on the shield with fair or lunging at your opponent? Because a lot of those things too can be curated, or I guess fixed, if you see, okay, if I find myself in this mental state, this is my true, almost instinctual default to say, if I'm in this spot and my opponent either recognizes it, or somehow they get lucky in some case, they can very easily take advantage of this. So if you feel yourself getting tilted, for example, what can you do to correct that on the spot? In some cases, what you can do is just sit back, literally sit back in your chair and say, you know what, I'm just gonna let this person do what they're doing and I'm just gonna do nothing. And by do nothing, I don't mean do nothing as like stand there and get hit. I mean do nothing as I'm not going to try and force the issue. The number one thing that I do in that regard, and this is part of like trying to level up as a player too, is just take a look at the time and be like, yes, this game has been a bit of a scrap or very annoying, but it's actually only been 2.5 minutes. I'm way too tilted considering how much game there is left in the game, if that makes sense, how much time there's left in the game. So if you see, okay, there's still 5 minutes left or 4.5 minutes left, I don't need to rush this. Yes, you might be losing, there's a chance, but you don't have to go in and go crazy and allow your emotion to get the best of you and lose the game in record time, I guess you could say. If you want to put yourself in that position, or sorry, you don't want to put yourself in that position, but if you happen to put yourself in that position, then of course, if your opponent, let's say they're not tilted, they might even find it funny that you are tilted, or maybe they don't even notice that you're tilted. They're just playing how they play. If you allow that to almost be a catalyst for you to go out of control, then that's how you lose very, very easily. A big part of VOD review can be that as well. It's not just the buttons you push, it's also the reasons why you push them. And in some cases, you have a strategic reason, as far as saying, okay, my opponent does this, so I want to do this, and this should work. And other times, it's the emotional reason. My opponent is, in my eyes, way worse than me. My opponent is playing a low tier. I'm supposed to win this set, and this person's playing corny. You're tilted. You could be even tilted from the set before. Let's say you fought a super campy Sonic, and now you have to fight a Snake right after, or to fight a Yoshi or a Zelda right after. It's like, I don't want to do this, and you're mad immediately. How do you fight this next person, and how does that transfer? Because that's huge. I feel like that's something that goes over people's heads forever. Like, being tilted is almost just an excuse to be like, if I'm tilted, I'm going to automatically lose. It's like, well, unfortunately, you don't get to pick. In some cases, you don't get to pick your opponents, obviously, but you do get to pick to an extent how you want to feel during your set. You want to try your absolute best and not get tilted, right? But if it just happens to happen, you should try to as quickly as you possibly can recognize that and say, okay, I almost like have an outer body experience, which sounds a little extreme, but you know what I'm saying, as far as to say, look at yourself and say, I am now recognizing and like throwing the card or throwing the flag on myself to say, I am tilted. I need to stop doing what I'm doing. If that means taking a breath on the Halo platform, or going to the corner and just shooting your lasers, or doing nairs, or whatever it is, or just walking, or literally just standing there, do whatever you have to do. Do whatever you have to do to try and collect yourself. And then from that point forward, try to play your best. And this is something that I would say every high level player, or every top level player absolutely does. I think of Esam a lot when I think of this. He's someone where if something really bad happens to him, or even Light does the whole roll up the sleeves thing just to try and make himself like get in the zone, or like Esam will take like a huge deep breath on the top platform, then he'll sit forward as he's getting back into the game or off the platform. And people are doing this because like I have to try and keep it together. Like, some people are trying to do it to psych themselves up, but that's still the same thing. Psych myself up, stay energized and stay positive, versus being like, yo, what the hell? This is impossible. This is horseshit, right? If you get into that mindset, top player or bottom level player, it's basically GG's. So it's huge. Look in the player cams of a lot of players. I don't know. I think Genesis is one of the next tournaments, at least from this point right now, that's going to be coming up next. Take a look at other player cams when things happen that go in their favor or against them. I think it's Vendetta is also pretty animated as well. And I'm not saying it as a negative or a positive, just like these, you can honestly see the players feeling it as far as being emotional in a positive or negative way, right? I actually have a coaching session coming up in 4 minutes, but I think the last part of this question really was, like we talked about frame data a little bit, we talked about tournaments and entering them, we talked about tournament nerves, stuff like that. As far as the amount of time spent, just as a closing thought, I would say you don't necessarily have to be putting in 8 hours a day to become a top level player. I can say you're much better off, in my opinion, putting in 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day of active practice. And what I mean by that is look up a character, learn their frame data, try your best to memorize it, fight against that character, go into a Discord and just grind against that character for as long as you can. If it's 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is, and then call that your practice. To just go on and play for 8 hours and try to even retain information for 8 hours worth of practice is just not practical. It's not possible, right? You're much better off saying, okay, I'm going to learn the Sheik matchup, or I'm going to learn the Byleth matchup, and I'm going to look at their frame data, and I'm going to study maybe high level players or top level players of those characters and see what they do, because these are things that you could either exploit, because like you could say, for example, how does somebody like MKLeo get edge guarded as Byleth or as Joker or as whoever he's playing? It has to be possible. What do top players do against him? What works against him? I can try and maybe emulate that, even if it's not a character that I play as. If someone has like a soft nair, you can jump off stage and you can catch Byleth, in which which situations does the soft nair work? Is it when they're up high and they swing down like this, or when they come straight up like this? If he throws his up B first and uses his double jump afterwards, can you try and call that out? So now he has no options and you can go out there with a nair, and now he has no jump. Or should you be waiting on stage to go for a ledge trap? Like, how do you maximize your situation as often as you possibly can, right? Try to maximize it by, like I said, watching other players play against certain characters and call that your practice. And I keep on saying call that your practice, right? You still have to do the work, of course, but I'd rather see you do that, and it has to be a balance as well. I'd rather see you do, let's say, half an hour or an hour of watching VODs, whether it's you playing or watching top players play, and then an hour of actually playing, right? That would be on top of going to tournaments, right? Going to tournaments would not be the practice. It's part of it. That's your execution. That's your giving a speech in front of the class. You're two to three times a week, if that makes sense, right? You're giving a presentation in that regard. But I would say, as far as the actual practice part, outside of tournaments, an hour of VODs, an hour of actual practice, or a half hour of VODs, hour and a half of actual practice. It does not have to be 6 hours of practice. Hopefully that does help. Let's jump into the session. And ironically enough, the session that I'm about to have in 2 minutes is with the same player that asked this question. I guess the last part, because a lot of people would really want to know, is how long does it take? And unfortunately, there's no real answer to say that. There are players that are 13 years old that are godlike, and there are people that are 28 years old, 30 years old, 35 years old. Trash. Straight trash. So as far as how long does it take to become a god, it varies from player to player. It varies on character to character. It varies on your region and how tough the competition is there too, right? There's a lot of factors that go into it. It's not like if you do a magical thing or you take this magical potion or do this certain workout routine, you're just going to be a top player. Unfortunately, it's not how it works. It's like a workout routine. Some things work for some players or some athletes, and some things just don't, right? So take it with a grain of salt with that regard, but it's most definitely it's going to be the mental focus to stay on task and have that active practice, like I was saying before. You have to see tournaments like tests. You don't figure out the answer during the test. You learn it before the test. See, exactly. That's what I was saying before, kind of like how going to a tournament is like giving your presentation, right? This is what I've learned. This is the information that I've gathered. This is how I've practiced executing behind closed doors. Now let's see what you got. That's all. That's what a tournament really is.